Yes, we're on this journey of life. And sometimes we get into that space where we feel like we need to be rescued, yes? Sometimes, not always, but sometimes. It's interesting, over the last few weeks, what we've been doing is looking at ways in which we can move through life more gracefully, move through life with a greater sense of joy and ease and freedom, feeling free within us. We began by learning how to overcome obstacles, learning how to pause in the midst of that storm, to presence ourselves with spirit, to be poised in that energy, and to pivot towards God. We learned how to look within and with courage, with a small act of courage, lift ourselves out, overcome those feelings, that BSG, right? The blame, shame, and guilt. The BSG spiral that we get in that starts with pride and ends with shame. And just how a little act of courage can lift us up out of that. And then we learned how to become resolute in the mind of God and ardent in the heart of God and resilient in the expression of that which is ours to express. That light that Margot sang about. That light that's within us. And as we're moving through this, we might have this, after we're kind of moving around and navigating through all of those challenges in life, the question comes up of, okay, now what? Anybody have that experience of that now what experience, that I'm stuck experience, that, okay, here I am, but what do I do next? How do I continue to move forward? I've gotten past that obstacle, but now it's kind of like I'm feeling stuck. I'm feeling like I've got a brain block. You ever had that brain block? Anybody here who are creative artists? Yes, there are several of us in here who have some sort of creativity. Catherine's not sure, but let me assure you that you're very creative. Just look at The Office, you can tell. I think each of us has some streak of creativity, even those number crunchers. You know those are number crunchers, right? Those who are really strong with spreadsheets or with coding or with math. I don't know. I'm not that much of a number cruncher, I guess. But each of us has within us some sort of creative streak. And as we're moving through life and trying to achieve our goals in life, trying to get that next job, trying to get a promotion, trying to finish that project on time, looking for that next activity on this job called retirement, looking for that next step, and how can I be and experience more joy in my life? What's mine to do in life? And as we move towards that, sometimes we feel a little stuck. And so today, what we're going to talk about is how we can learn to become unstuck by realizing that we are all creative. In fact, not only that, we are all master creators. You are such a powerful creator that you just don't even know it. Anybody know it? Okay, they're saying, yeah, a bunch of people know it. You are all master creators. And you're creating your life experience one moment at a time. Every step of the way. You are creating it. So as I'm going through my creative process, right, of what is my talk going to be like? How am I going to show up in life? How am I going to solve this problem? How am I going to move forward? How am I going to solve this logistics problem? We now have 2 cars, so that makes my logistics a lot easier, right? With 2 kids and 2 sets of activities, and now we have 2 Ubers in the house. That's exciting. So what happens, though, is that sometimes we get along the path and it's just like, I feel stuck. I feel like I don't know which way to go. And what we don't realize is that even though it feels like we can't create that next step, that we can't keep going and we're not reaching our goals yet, we're not there yet, I'm not a creative person. How many people think I asked earlier how many are creative. How many think they're not very creative? Yeah, there's some of us. But the challenge here is that we put creativity on such a high bar that we say, well, that person was clearly creative. Right? Leonardo da Vinci. I almost said DiCaprio. He's pretty creative too. Albert Einstein. All of these creative people that did incredible things. Steve Jobs. Our life would be so much different if he hadn't created that little device. All of these creative geniuses that are in the world, that's the bar in which we set. But the reality is that we're all that creative. We're just creating in a different way. So a lot of times what happens is that when we're feeling stuck, we are creating stuckness. When we're feeling lost, we're creating a sense of loss in our lives. Whatever it is that we're putting our attention to or that's coming up for us, that's the creative energy that we are using to live life. And we create our life one moment at a time. We create our experience of life from that state of consciousness. We are always creating. And so the question isn't so much, okay, John, I've got to change my thoughts. I get it, think positive thoughts. One of my brother-in-law says, unity is that happy, happy church, where everyone's happy, happy all the time. And if you follow the principles, you begin to experience that more and more. And I almost named this talk, experiencing or always creating with joy. But the reality is there isn't always joy in our lives, but we're always creating. We are always creating in our lives. It's the law of mind action. It's that law that Rusty talked about earlier today, that thoughts in mind produce after the kind. Not only do they produce after their kind, but they establish our lives. Our thoughts, our consciousness is how we live our life. And that's why it's so important to practice those principles of being happy, happy, even in times of challenge. So we may not call it happiness, but we may call it, grounding ourselves in spirit. We may anchor ourselves in faith. We may see ourselves and have a different experience of it, but it is our consciousness through which we are creating our life. So I want to tell you what Eric Butterworth has to say about this. In his book, Practical Metaphysics, this is under the chapter of not manifestation, it starts with a D. Anyway, you guys, come on. You guys can't read my mind? Clearly, I can't read my mind anyway. But it's about manifesting. It's about bringing, it's on the tip of my tongue. You don't care. He says, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. This is a fundamental concept in the teaching of Jesus, and it's the basic premise of what we've been calling practical metaphysics, the study of being, the study of consciousness. This is the key to scientific prayer, and here's the nugget. What you experience will always depend on where you are in thought, in consciousness, in feeling, and self-awareness. It is so fundamental that the focus of your thoughts, that if the focus of your thought is negative, the experience will tend toward limitation. This is a basic principle that we talk about, but the question is, how do we really lift ourselves up in those times when we're feeling that stuckness? How do we lift ourselves up out of that? Yes, we can do our affirmations, but if we don't really believe it, or if we don't have a sense of it in our feelings and heart, they're just words coming out of our mouth. So how do we ingrain it into our sense of well-being? What I've started to do is look at it from the perspective of our values. Look at my creation in life from the point of view of my values. Now, my values are how I want to show up in life. What does it mean for me when I'm expressing that divine essence? What does it mean for you when you look at yourself and think of yourself as your higher self, right? As that Christ consciousness, as that divine spark. How do you break that down? What does it look like? What ideas do you use to bring that forward when you're acting from your highest self? For me, this is what I call my values. And every year, the board goes through an exercise where we discern our values and how we show up in life. And we discern our own personal mission and how we're going to show up as a board, how we're going to show up in life. And this is how that divine spark flows through me. My mission is to claim, energize, and celebrate the love and power of the divine in all. That's my mission in life. It's to claim and celebrate the love and the power and the joy of the divine in all of you, in me, in all of creation. And I do that through my values of love and faith, humble and empowered, fun and courage, authentic and agile. Now, I brought these up not because I forgot them, but because my brain tends to go blank when I start to pontificate. But when I looked at this idea of when I'm stuck, the question is, well, what am I creating by being stuck? What am I creating? Well, I realized I was creating boredom. I was creating a sense of low energy. It was being generated within me. I was creating a sense of despondency. I was creating commerce. It's true, because I would get online and play the Xbox, right? I'd get on my iPad and start playing on my games to distract myself. So I was creating some sense of commerce there, some sense of energy that's flowing through there. See, I was creating even when I was stuck. I just wasn't creating in a way that I wanted to create. And so if I look at it, well, what's the payoff for being stuck? Because I'm getting something, right? I'm getting some sort of juice. I'm getting something because I do it, because it comes up. So what's the payoff for it? Well, it's feeding into those beliefs that I'm not good enough. It's feeding into those fears that I don't have what it takes. And when I then looked at it from the perspective of, let's say, love and faith, that pair. Love and faith is the value of creating harmony and kindness and compassion in my experience. It's a value, it's an energy from the heart. So how can I put more love in this situation that I'm feeling stuck in? How can I put more faith, that energy of the mind that says, I know it's already done, I just have to take the next step? How can I take that power of faith and put it into action when I'm feeling stuck? How about fun and courage? Fun is a value for me. I want to have fun. How about you? Maybe a little? I mean, not every religion wants you to have fun. I think Unity can say that you should have fun, or you could if you'd like. And at the same time of having fun, I want to have courage to do the things that ought to be done by me. How can I add this element of fun in the things where I feel stuck and not wanting to touch? How can I add this element of courage in that little step of taking one small step forward? So this week I was practicing that. I'm like, oh, I'm feeling a little down. Maybe I'll just take a little brain break. And I got on the Xbox and I'm like, this isn't really what I want. This isn't what I'm needing. Let me take a walk around the block. I took one walk around the block and I was back at it. So just the courage to step forward and say, you know what, this really isn't what I want. The love, the harmony to bring forth that love for myself that's saying it's okay that you want to take a break. Authenticity and agile. Authenticity is, for me, is being transparent to myself, right? This is really not what I want. What do I really want? And being agile, being able to move quickly without, trying to dive into the details too much. We are always creating in our life. So think about for you, what does it look like for you when you are at your best? What's the feeling that you have for yourself? Anybody have a feeling that what they feel when they feel like they're at their best? You can say it out loud, it's okay. Lighthearted, joy, focused, acceleration, in your lane, powerful, valuable, growing, thriving. Can you get a sense of that? Can you get a sense of how that feels when you are living your best self? Now, what lies behind that? Behind those feelings? Let's just think thriving. Maybe a belief that I'm good enough, I'm worthy. I'm a great expresser. Demonstration, that's the D word that I was looking for 20 minutes ago. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. The synapse finally fired. Woo-hoo. So when we're in that state of stuckness, realize that you are creating something in your life. You are creating an experience of how you are going to show up, and you're sending that energy out into the world. So no wonder when somebody walks into the room, have you ever experienced this? Somebody walks into the room and they are just a curmudgeon. You know the curmudgeons in our lives. We've seen them. And as soon as they walk into the room, it's like this powerful energy just hitting us. It's because that's what they're generating. That's what they're creating. And then what do we create in response to that? Right? That's not the cause. The cause is our response right in here. My trigger is now creating defensiveness, and it's now creating my guards up. It's now creating, oh, here we go again. I better not say anything. Everybody quiet down. We're always creating, and so we're creating a field of defensiveness. We're creating a field of animosity, a field of struggle. Instead of somebody coming in, how can I respond more with love? That idea of love, and maybe it'll show up. I won't get up and give the curmudgeon a hug, maybe, but maybe it's showing up and showing a little kindness, a smile, maybe a little compassion, right? Instead of the story of this guy's always a deep, 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 the story of I wonder what happened this morning to make him feel this way. The story of I wonder if I can do something to brighten his day or her day. How can I bring a little bit more faith in? That regardless of what's happening here in the moment, that mental energy, I can continue to ground myself in the faith of knowing that I have this divine essence, this power that's going to stream forth from me. I have no idea how it's going to happen. I'm just going to let it happen. What are your values? What is really meaningful to you? And if you don't know, take a moment to think about all of the things that you do that really bring you that sense that we talked about earlier, that feeling of power, that feeling of in your zone, of in your, just really thriving. What are you doing? Right? What's the belief that's behind it? And really start to pull out and tease out what some of these values are. Some of the values for me have kind of morphed into this idea of, why am I here? Well, what I really value is to be a teacher. To show people, to help people discover that light that's within them. As Margot was saying earlier, you are light. I am light. We can all shine brightly with each other. We can all allow that to shine. One of my favorite quotes comes from around creativity and around doing the things that we love to do and around doing the things that we don't love to do, but with a sense of spirit, with a sense of inner joy, with a sense of inner power. All of those things that we do in life, right? Every moment of the day, we are creating our experience. So how can we do it a little bit more? I love this quote. This is from Miles Davis. He's one of the great jazz legends of the 20th century. I'm always thinking about creating. My future starts when I wake up in the morning and see the light. I wake up in the morning and see the light. That's all it takes. Now, I don't know if he had a little nightlight by the side of the bed and that helped him get up early in the morning. But what I think he meant is that see the light that's within himself. To see that brilliance as he creates, that brilliance as it comes out of his trumpet, that brilliance as he's writing this new jazz piece. He sees the light. He sees the potential that's within him. And he allows that potential to shine. He just lets it. And out of that comes creativity. The quote at the beginning of that Butterworth quote, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." That's from the Gospel according to John, chapter 8, verses 31 through 38, in which Jesus continued to tell his disciples, "Very truly I tell you, everyone who commits sin is a slave to sin." So how true is that when we look at it from that idea that sin is an error thought? Sin is that idea that we are not good enough. Sin is us believing in our separation from God, from spirit, from isness. Sin is not believing in that light that's within us. And when we commit that error thought, we are subject to it. We're no longer free, as Rusty talked about in the Daily Word. We're now slaves to it, to just that thought. That thought is creative. And it's creating within us a sense of lack and limitation, of separation, of not good enough. Charles Fillmore says, the power is in the mind, is in our consciousness. The power comes from our consciousness. And when we align our consciousness with that power, with that inner light, then we will shine brightly. He says, turn the great energy of your thinking upon ideas of plenty, and you will have plenty, regardless of what people about you are doing or saying. Don't get caught up in all of the dramas. Don't get caught up in all of the naysaying. For that is creative as well. But you don't have to be in that creative energy. You can create your own field of creativity, your own field of value. Yes? Put the great energy of your thinking upon ideas of plenty, and you will find the next step. When you find yourself, going back into your behavior patterns, those old automatic behaviors, playing the game, taking a drink, calling up your friend and gossiping for 3 hours. Whatever those patterns become in our lives to distract us, realize that they're creative. You're always creating. So what are you creating in life? And how can you draw in some of your values that explain and show that you're shining your light? So that you're sure that if I add a little bit more fun into this experience, I'll be living more from that higher consciousness. If I add a little bit more kindness to an interaction today, I'm living more from that state of being one with God, an expressing spirit in the flow of life, love, and wisdom. Our affirmation for today is on the screen. I'll read it once and then invite you to affirm it with me. I am a creative being and a powerful creator. Centered in God, I consciously co-create my life experience. Did I misspell consciously? I misspelled consciously down there. Sorry, Internet. I'm going to read that again because I got caught up in my need to be perfect. Right? And so I'm going to apply that value of love to have a little self-love for myself and a little bit of authenticity to call it out but not be so, strung up by it. Thank you. Okay, let's go back to the affirmation. I'll read it one more time and then invite you to affirm it with me. I am a creative being and a powerful creator. Centered in God, I consciously co-create my life experience. Together, I am a creative being and a powerful creator. Centered in God, I consciously co-create my life experience. Amen. And so it is. As we consciously shift our thinking, you shall know the truth of your being. And that truth of you, of who you are, and what you've come here to express, to create in this world, the good that you have come here to build. That's who you are. And that will set you free.